Hey everybody, it's Pete. Good morning. Welcome to a new episode of Stocks for Breakfast. We got a lot to talk about today. Some stocks to buy, some stocks to probably be putting stop losses in. One hot sector that lit up the last 2 weeks that is very tradable. Of course, we're going to talk about Apple earnings. We're going to talk about Amazon earnings. We're going to talk about Starbucks earnings and a couple of really good ones that popped in there. We've actually been watching the industrial stocks and we've been watching the basic material stocks kind of vacillate like this, but they might have turned a corner. Obviously, the infrastructure bill is still a big deal right now, and we're going to give a little bit of tough love to everybody for what their trading looked like over the last 2 weeks, because it was a good 2 weeks of trading, and we're going to have a little conversation about that today too. So stick around. I'll be back in just 1 second. Okay, so everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited for today. It's Friday. Yay. It's been an exhausting 2 weeks, a really good 2 weeks of trading. So as with every video that we do here, everything here is for educational purposes. It's up to you to make that final decision. It's my mission to help you make better decisions. So I want to thank everybody for being here. It's 7:30 in the morning in case you happen to be watching this on a replay. We got some diehards in here every morning at 7:30 in the morning. I absolutely love the fact that we have a nice little community here super early. So we're going to get right into it. We're actually going to jump right into Apple earnings. I want to make sure that I stick right on target. As I mentioned a couple of days ago, somebody had called me out on getting to the title a little bit later in the video. So I want to make sure that I get to it right away. I'm also going to introduce this book, which I will talk about in just 1 second. If you happen to have attended the webinar that we did on Wednesday night with David Trainer from New Constructs, it was more about fundamental analysis and earnings reports and what he calls core earnings and earnings distortions. If you didn't happen to catch it, definitely go to the homepage and watch that video, and I'll give you a little bit more detail of why I want to recommend this book for you. All right, so we're going to get right into it. We're actually going to talk about Apple. We're going to talk about Apple. We're going to talk about Apple earnings. So let's just get right into it. We'll talk about how the market traded as well. And where we are. We got a lot of people panicking on one pre-market that's down, which is a little bit crazy. We just hit all-time highs again in the NASDAQ yesterday. The Dow hit it a couple of days ago. The SPY came within a couple of inches yesterday. So we're still in pretty good shape. But what I thought was super interesting about Apple, and you can see over here, it's down 3.5%, down $5.40. Apple supply chain issues. That was a big deal. Amazon also forecasting a lower number for the holidays, which is not really boding well for the back half of this year. But then you got the other side of the market where Microsoft exploded to new all-time highs, held that bid, and actually traded into a new pause, ready to look to push higher. It's only down 40 cents, so I'm still looking to be a buyer of Microsoft. What I'm also going to do today as a special bonus for Friday, I'm going to give you the entire list that we gave to the community yesterday to take a look at, and that's actually going to be pretty cool. So actually, you know what? I'm going to give you that first. So if you want, snapshot this screen so you can take a look at the entire list. Let me pull that up on the screen for you right there. Okay, if you want, just take a quick screenshot of that. One of the most important things that we talk about, we did a video on this recently, which is making sure that not only you're looking at the stocks, but look at the flow of the stocks, both from a sector perspective and then do a deeper dive into the industry groups. So when we start to talk about this list and we start to break it down, you should put some context together from the rotation of the smart money in and out of individual industries from 1 day to 1 week and how that flows into the little bit bigger picture. Energy stocks have just kind of melted lower. They've lost all their juice. Consumer cyclical now is at the high. We're actually going to take a look at roughly 8 or 9 stocks in the consumer cyclical, just so we can add to the argument for what we'll be looking at today. And you can see here as well, they are 1, 2, 3. There's only 2 here, which is interesting, but they are leading the pack. So that means that we also need to dig a little deeper, which, by the way, is a big part of understanding how to put these kind of lists together. We talked about it a couple of days ago, where there is your raw material of everything that meets your scan, which is from your edge. Then you go deeper into those stocks and you determine if today is a trade in that stock. So this list of stocks, I'll put it up one more time, is the ideas that meet all the perfect criteria, which you can see on the top, short-term and long-term criteria. Then you need to go into the stocks and determine if there is an edge. Now we're going to talk about Apple. Let me actually make that a little bit bigger for you just one more time. Okay, so you can take a snapshot of that. Wow, from Germany. What's up, Mustier? It's Germany and 1 p.m. here. All right. I'm actually Simon. What's up, man? How are you? I love when we see people from the community here. Simon's awesome. Simon's in the UK. We have Musty now from Germany. I was talking to my dad the other day about that. It's just amazing that we can have people. John Weinberg, we have to catch up. How are you? So anyway, let's get into Apple and what I'm anticipating happening, because this has been a big deal on the opposite side of some of the ideas that we've been watching, which is this. So Apple earnings came out, conversations about supply chain issues and how it affected them by a $6 billion number for the last quarter. Okay. Now, the same thing that we talk about all the time with when we're interpreting the earnings numbers, we're talking about the cash flows going forward, not the cash flows going backwards. So that number affected the previous quarter. So I am actually not looking for Apple to sell off hard after today. They're digesting the numbers right now. We're looking for going forward. So that number is actually already what we call baked into the price and baked into that earnings report. So I think it was kind of ironic that the stock exploded yesterday when they came out with the numbers in the afternoon and then sold off. So I actually think that this is going to end up being the worst of Apple, because the news is out already, which is kind of the opposite of sell the news. In this case here, there was no rally over months heading into that news. We're kind of dancing back and forth, especially you can see here, we're kind of in a trading range going back to July. So I believe the way I'm looking at it, the way I'm interpreting it right now, remember, we've been talking about the number coming out and then giving it a couple of days to digest. And we saw that in some of the financial stocks. JP Morgan specifically went down right after the earnings and rallied back up. So let's let the number digest a little bit here. Obviously, supply chain issues are a big deal. $6 billion is what they're saying was the cost for last quarter. So now let's see as we adjust going forward. And what's kind of interesting is you hear all these conversations about the chip shortage. But Tesla's not complaining about a chip shortage. So it depends on where and how that company is being run. So we'll see. I think that we might see what I call, it might slide or skid through today, maybe a day or two lower. And then I think that it's going to get digested, and then we're going to start looking at the next quarter. So that's how I'm looking at Apple right now. Amazon, a little bit different. Amazon is actually going straight out and forecasting not having a good quarter. So they are telling us. My wife says all the time, when somebody tells you who they are, listen. And that's a relationship advice, but we're talking about that with the stock right now too. Amazon actually, what was the quote? Maya Angelou. Oh, Maya Angelou. She got that from Maya Angelou. Okay. So Amazon is telling us who they're going to be for the next quarter. Remember, we just said we're buying the next quarter. We're buying today for where we think it's going to be going forward. So Amazon getting absolutely shellacked this morning. So we'll see what the next quarter unfolds. But they just told us what they expect. Two different stories. Apple told us what happened last quarter. Amazon is telling us what's happening the quarter going forward. That's a big deal. Starbucks, kind of the same thing. Starbucks is actually getting hit by 5% here as well. And Starbucks is a China story. They're saying that with the spread increasing in China, that they are taking a hit, as well as the recovery that they had here is now gone to dust, and they're getting hit in China. And, it was interesting. We actually kept talking about an upgrade to 127. Two different people put 127, which was pretty aggressive. That was new all-time highs. But now it's actually heading back down and broke. Actually, if you could see here, one of the biggest things about charting, we look for levels. This is kind of like a short lesson, but support and resistance should be as simple as possible. And you really just want to look at a chart and say, where was the last place buyers or sellers did something significant? Stop making it more complicated. That's really it. If we're looking for a level, where was the last place buyers or sellers did something significant? And in this case here, we have right around 109.50, and we're actually trading through that level right now. So Starbucks has some work to do. It's got to get back above this level right here, which is 109.50. And let's even say 110. So right now it's trading down at 107.39. Again, pre-market, not a big deal. And I want to talk about pre-market for a second. What pre-market prices and reacting too heavily to pre-market prices. That's the level now. So we talk a lot about being prepared. We talk a lot about having a game plan. You need now to have an alert. So remember, we talk about trading game plan and we talk about tracking journal. Right now, Starbucks, for a bullish perspective, you set an alert for 110. Then you go into this stock and see where the trade is. So remember, scans and alerts, and then the next step is seeing if there's a trade. So we not only need to see Starbucks get back above 110, but the daily chart needs to go well bid, which we now know is higher highs, higher lows on the weekly chart needs to go higher highs, higher lows, and close near the high, which would be translating into a reversal. We're also going to start to talk right now about a stock that was up 47% yesterday. Not this week, not this month. Yesterday, it was up 47%. And we're talking about how you could have traded it. We were all over it in the community yesterday. We got to the point where we're talking about using the profit maximizer and that stuff. Also, we want to talk about some other earnings. Caterpillar, Merck, X, and then we're going to talk about Facebook now being called Meta. So let's just get into those earnings. We're actually going to talk about X. X was actually, last time I looked, X was up 7%. It's actually up 8.6% right now. So now here's the deal with X, okay? You can see that it's in a longer term order flow where it's kind of obvious, right? It's stuck in this box between 22 and 29. So I will tell you, having traded a lot of X this year, we kept, as basic materials starting to get strong, we were watching a lot of stocks in this industry group, in the sector, and then in the industry group. 29 is a wall of worry for this stock. So now we have 25.39. This is where you separate yourself from chart reader who doesn't get it to somebody who is in charge of the outcome. I'm trading a lot of X this year. 28.50, 29 is the level it's having a hard time getting through. Amazing numbers this morning, and it's at $4.50 from that level, $3.50 from that level, right? So if we know $3.50 is the next level where major resistance keeps going up, sellers come in and smash it down, come up and smash it down. We know what our risk should be on that. Remember, the argument for taking a trade is justifying the risk because of the reward potential. So we know now that that is the wall. That is where it is. So 3-to-1 risk reward, $3.50 profit target. Maybe you're looking at risking no more than $1 on this trade. So we have to anticipate whenever we get into this trade, whether it's a day trade up to 28, a 2-day trade up to 28, 29, that's the level. The better trade where there's more money on the table is past 29. So we're looking for two things. We're looking for this stock to hold today's bid, the higher opening, looking for it to go well bid today, probably tomorrow into 29. And we're looking for that sector to catch a bid as well. We're looking for basic materials, which is now at the bottom of this list. I'll just show you that one more time. Let me give you a bigger picture of that. Basic materials, which is here. We need to see this start creeping up the list over the next couple of days. So what we just talked about is we just broke down the if-then scenarios. We're scripting out the success of how we plan to trade this stock that has had monster earnings this week. That's pretty cool because now we're not guessing, we're not waiting, we're not waiting to see what the stock does. If you script everything out like that every single day, every single trade, you start to have conviction. And we actually had a great conversation yesterday. We have a lot of people that are in their second year with us in our mastery program, and it was kind of fun. We had a lot of conversations yesterday about the biggest things that they've learned over the last year. And Jane Ferrari actually came out with something that was really big yesterday, which I thought was pretty insightful, which was, again, I'm giving you the ideas. I'm giving you the rotation. We're talking about some stock ideas. But what Jane said was really deep. And it's something that a lot of traders who just give me the alert, don't understand. She actually said that once she got to the point where she was doing her own game planning. Now, you need the ideas to understand what a great idea looks like. But Jane took it a step further of one of the biggest changes or the biggest thing she's most proud of from one year to the next was doing her own game planning. And this is key. You have more conviction in the ideas where you do the game planning. You build the arguments because they're your babies. And when you get to the point where you're listening to other people and learning why something might or might not be a good idea, that's a part of the process because you need to understand what perfect means. But Jane took it a step further and said, that's awesome. It gets you to a point where you understand what great ideas look like, but then you have more conviction in the ideas when they're your ideas. I just can't stress enough how important that was. So I want you to think just a little bit deeper. How much are you relying on someone else to give you ideas versus how much conviction do you have? Because it's a small thing that you take for granted, that when you see a trade, you put it on. You see a trade, you put it on because it's your idea. When it's somebody else's idea and you have no idea how much depth went into that argument for the trade, you're going to kind of hesitate. You're going to maybe wishy-washy. As soon as it moves against you just a little bit, you kick it out instead of hanging on to it because it was your idea. So think about that. Very, very important. I want to touch on something, and then we got a big list of consumer cyclical stocks. I just want to touch on one thing from this morning's email, and this is a big part of trading. All right, this is obviously our email that went out today. We're going to talk about Lucid in a second, but I'm very if you know me at all, I'm really big on attaboy, let's go do it, and seeing the bright side of everything. There's the other side of that where you have to push a little bit if you're not getting the results you want. Again, your current situation to where you want to be. I want to highlight this because it's really important, and I want to give you something to think about this weekend. Okay, and here it is. Amazing week of trading. So you can see this obviously today, right? One of those weeks to be on top of your game, both day trades and swing trades getting follow through. If you had a tough week, be sure to post topics for next Monday's coaching call. Super important to make more when more is available. And this is the part that a lot of traders just never finally get to that point where, look, I'll be the first person to tell you that when the market's tough, I am constantly telling everybody in our community, lighten it up, or I've lightened up my position size. I've tightened up maybe a little bit more on my potential profit target, especially on day trades where maybe I'm going for 2-to-1 instead of 3-to-1. And these are the kind of things that I walk everybody through during the day. Aldo and Sari in our community do the same thing. So our moderators, our team is walking everybody through where's Minvai? Minvai is here. I'm stealing his language where he was talking about situational analysis, which is something that he brought up on the call. So there's understanding what to look at. And then there is getting to the point where your situation analysis is telling you how to interact with that situation. So again, getting back to this list of stocks to trade, and I'll put that up on the screen there one more time for you. Okay. That's the list of ideas. Okay. Having a list of ideas and then understanding how to interact with those ideas is pretty important. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we had a conversation about a stock, NET. And I'm going to bring this up. Michael Robinson from our community just brought up a really good question. And we actually, what's interesting is we actually started having this conversation, and I am not kidding you about this. This is how early our community gets started. It was 7 o'clock yesterday morning. We're having a conversation about this stock. And this is, again, getting a little bit more into the not putting too much emphasis on stock prices at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So Michael posted this stock, and we were having a conversation about whether or not it was one of our snapback trades. And we were going over the average true range on the trade. We got to the point where we came to a conclusion that the setup was still valid, despite the fact that it was down $4.50 pre-market, because it met other criteria, which mostly is, you could see the bullish order flow over the last, basically for the month of October. It's one of the strongest stocks that we have for October. So the point that I want to get across is that we mapped out the trade. Michael put the whole trade together, and then this is how the trade performed after the market opened. So you can see 178 to 186 was basically the price targets and the entries and exits that we were discussing. So the point that I want to make here is that it is infinitely more important to script out what you expect to happen and how you plan to interact with it. Again, Minvai's situational analysis, we call it scripting it out, right? It's infinitely more important for you to script it out. And if it never happens, that's okay. But if it does happen, you better make more when more is available. Does everybody understand that? Please do me a favor, type yes in there because it's that important. So many people get all caught up in it didn't do what I expected. Like yesterday, I was joking, last video that we did, last live stream, I was joking around that somebody watched a scanning video that I did a year ago and said that one of the stocks went down the next day. Kind of out of context, I joked around about it a little bit, but here's the reality of trading. It is more important you script out what you expect to have happen. Have the confidence in yourself that you understand what you're looking at. And again, if you feel like you need to learn more or you want to be involved in our community, click the link below the video and learn about the bootcamp. All right. It's important that you script it out, and don't worry if some of those ideas do not follow through. Focus on the ones that do. And I'm really going to bring this home. Michael game planned this at 7 o'clock in the morning with me. We were talking to the community, and we were having our coffee, and we built out the script. And later in the afternoon, about 2 hours after the market opened, we had we recapped the conversation, and then turned into a profit-taking conversation. Those are the kind of conversations that separate you from, I understand stochastics, MACD, RSI, and every other thing you could imagine on a charting platform, versus I am a step up from that, and I understand how to put together trade ideas and then manage them based on the situation. So give all the credit to Michael Robinson in the community yesterday. It was kind of exciting to have that conversation, because he posted one thing, and then it was like, well, let's look at it from this angle. And that's what it takes to act and feel like a trader. Actually, it's funny. I read, I don't know if everybody's reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Just an amazing, amazing book. One of the quotes that's sticking in my head right now is, every action you take is a vote for who you are. So think about that. Every little thing that you do is a vote for who you are. So are you scripting it out? Do you want to act like a professional trader right now by scripting out and taking the actions of exactly what Michael did yesterday and scripting out the ideas? And obviously what we talk about all day, every day in our community. So I'm going to challenge you. If you had a tough last couple of weeks, especially if you had a tough week this week, this has been 2 weeks to make money. If you did not make money, you need to ask yourself, what were you looking at? What was your focus? And why you missed the money that was out there this week. There was obvious moves. Look at this stock for the month of October. I'm going to ask you, we go back and watch the videos. We practically talked about this stock almost every day in October. This is, in case you're watching this 25 years from now, it's October 2021. So anyway, I want to challenge you. I want you to step up your game a little bit and start to ask yourself, if I didn't make more when more was available, why not? And then start to come up with answers for that. All right. Start to come up with answers for that. All right. Okay. As promised, I want to start to get into some of those consumer cyclical stocks. We talked about CAT. Let me just go through those stocks. CAT. I'll make this a little bit bigger. CAT, obviously good day and earnings. It's up a little bit higher. Merck. Oh, let me type that in there. Merck. And X is having a big move as well. You can see it's actually up 8.5%. So it's actually right here at this breakout level. All right. So I want to get into a couple of other ideas. One of the top ideas that I think I have on the radar today is NVIDIA. And it's mostly because of this longer term price action. Actually super rally coming out of earnings. And now it's actually paused for 2 days. You can see that we have our, the last time this type of pattern happened, we got this. So again, nothing set in stone, but history repeats itself. This same exact pattern here is happening here. So we're looking for NVIDIA to take off. But I want to get back into the rotation as promised. We're going to talk about consumer cyclical heading into the day. Oh, actually, I wanted to first, before we do that, I promised this book right here, Expectations Investing. If you want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into what was covered on the webinar on Wednesday night by David Trainer on fundamental analysis, that's a pretty good book. If you want to watch the replay of that webinar, I strongly recommend you do. Go to the homepage. It's right there on the recently uploaded videos. Okay. So I want to get a little bit into, I actually want to show you something fun, which is kind of cool. Let me pull this one up. We get a lot of questions about my office in New York City. This was one of our main trading floors. You can see Keystone Trading Group up here in the corner. We have a bunch of market makers and specialists and clerks and just regular people like us in the office. This was on 34th Street and 7th Avenue in Manhattan. We were across the street from Macy's and right next to Madison Square Garden. It was just an amazing place. Over here, back in this corner, was our mentoring and our coaching room. We had about 25 people in that room. And you can see Dom going back to our kitchen back there as well. So I just wanted to share that with you. It's kind of cool, actually. Okay, so I want to get into some of the ideas. We were talking about consumer cyclical stocks today and looking at some of them to, again, line up for trading for today. So I want to get into the list for everybody. LCID is the one. I think that's the top one. I posted this yesterday and last night from the previous day's close to the high of yesterday. You can see the stock was up almost 48% yesterday. Just absolutely, absolutely amazing. And what I first want to do, I want to come back on the screen. Lynn Ramirez in our community has been all over the stock, making sure our whole community is all over the stock. We had 28 as a breakout level. So right now I'm giving Lynn Ramirez all the credit in the world for this stock. And we'll throw another one out there that we're actually keeping an eye on, which is ChargePoint. CHPT is another one. It's starting to trade into some really clean price action, and you can see that it broke this longer-term trend, and obviously benefiting from the other electric vehicle conversations that are going on right now, which we can include Ford in that conversation. Just blew the doors off the number. Now, if you know, we've been talking about Ford at 1650, exploded through that level off of earnings. You can see the day here, and now it's still holding that 1650 area. So that's going to be an area that we're going to keep an eye on. So as we said, LCID exploded yesterday. We are looking for some follow through. Tesla. So what we're looking at right now is consumer cyclical stocks. Again, I just want to keep drilling home what we're doing. We're focusing on sector rotation and the stocks that are showing some strength right now. So Tesla, obviously, I'm still holding to my thesis that this is going to be a little bit of sell the news with the Tesla 100,000 vehicle order from Hertz. Doesn't mean it's going to collapse. I just think that the upside has got to cool off just a little bit. One of the other stocks that's in the consumer cyclical, probably one of the better IPOs this year, BROS, trading really well. Volume is good. Volatility is good. XPEV, again, keep having this conversation about the Chinese electric vehicle stock still maintaining that bid. So again, consumer cyclical. NEO, a little bit disappointing. This day here, when we had the swing trade long, I was like, yeah, all right, finally pushing a pause, looking for an explosion, and it didn't. So I'm no longer in NEO on that swing trade, but it's still setting up for a pretty good trade. We've been talking about Hilton after earnings. Let me zoom that out a little bit. And MAR, Marriott. So again, consumer cyclical, there's a little bit more of a recovery play in this area. BBY also pausing right in front of what we can call now major. Look at that. I mean, my gosh, do you need any better of a chart? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times sellers came in and smashed the stock. So again, getting into, MinVi situational analysis. If that's what we're looking at in BBBY right now, and it's showing order flow, and it's showing a pause, and it's giving us a chance to get in, but massive resistance about $3 above where we are right now. How do we manage that? You have two scenarios. You take the appropriate risk up to that big resistance level. If you're a short-term trader, if you're looking for a little bit longer-term trade past this resistance level and past this quarter, then you're intentionally going in with two pieces. You have a lower initial share size on the same entry, but you're not adding until you see the tape change over that 124 level. Okay, two different scenarios there for managing that position. All right, so we're going to work our way over into a couple of more consumer cyclicals. Etsy has just been absolutely on fire. Traded into a bullish U-turn yesterday, a little bit lower today. Again, we just talked about, don't worry about pre-market. Focus on what happens after the bell rings. And Lowe's and Home Depot. Holy mackerel. Really good pause here in Home Depot, Lowe's and Home Depot, same exact thing. So one of the things that we talked about, I don't know, I want to say maybe about a week and a half ago. Interesting that a lot of members, both here on social media as well as in the community, when they first start trading, I believe it was Stephen Williams who asked the question last week about why is it so easy to see after the fact? And it really comes down to you need to have structure. If this happens, then I'm doing this. If this happens, that means this, right? Well, we're looking at how many, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, which by the way, I hope you are. If you're not, smash that like button if these are valuable to you, and please hit that subscribe button. So if this happens, then I'm doing this. And you hear me all the time talking about push and a pause, push and a pause. Well, Home Depot's in a pause. So is Lowe's is in a pause. This is the structure of the price action you need to recognize prior to it happening. Order flow pushing, order flow pausing, order flow pushing and pausing. So you're spotting this. It doesn't matter if it's a 5-minute chart right now or a daily chart looking for the next trade. We're actually going to finish up because I have to get ready for our game plan meeting. Is Facebook. Obviously, Facebook changed. They're now Meta, focusing on the metaverse. I guess they haven't updated it officially here and whatnot, but this is super interesting. The stock is going to have some volatility. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows whether the change is going to be good or bad for the long form of the company. I will tell you this, though. Switching your focus as a business into a completely different area changes your business. So I know Apple has the holding company and the companies underneath, Alphabet with everything underneath that. It's a different business. It's a different business model. It's a different target. That has to be absorbed into what's going on. I don't think this is really good news. I don't think it's really bad news. I think it's significant news, though. It's going to be interesting to see how it ends up unfolding, to see if the same revenue sources and the size of the revenue sources that are in the social media platform are going to end up translating into the metaverse, which is where the name Meta is coming from. I do know, though, the stock is going to remain volatile. So for us as active short-term traders, especially day traders, stock's going to be pretty good to trade. And if you take a look at how it traded yesterday, there were a couple of really good opportunities yesterday, especially over here in the afternoon. Again, you want to keep your trading as simple as possible. That was the previous high in the afternoon. You can see this was right around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and pretty darn easy trade for roughly $5 or $6 there in the afternoon. So like I've been saying, there has been a lot of opportunity. October, for as tough as September was, October of 2021 had opportunity. So I'm going to challenge you. Go back and watch that part of the video. Ask yourself why you didn't see the market better this month. Because the quicker you are honest with yourself and get to that answer, the quicker you can start making money. Remember, make a list of what doesn't work, avoid that garbage, and then start learning how to make more on your winning trades. It's really that simple. Again, stacking the order flow, which is a part of what we're talking about right now, reading the tape, which is fine-tuning your entries and exits, and then risk reversal, which is understanding how to build those arguments and what goes on here between your ears, right, when you put the trade on. So if you want to learn more about this, click the link below. I mean, just find out what's in the boot camp. It's not a subscription. It's a 30-day workshop. If it's for you, awesome. I'd love to see you on the other side. If you want to hang out here on social media, I'm fine with that too. Only you can decide if you want to make that investment in yourself. All right. I have to head out, everybody. We got to get ready for our boot camp game plan. So have an awesome, awesome day of trading. Have an awesome weekend. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be pointing. Have an awesome weekend. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll speak to you soon, everybody. Take care now.